for all the abominations that be done in the midst thereof. And the others he said in mine hearing, Go ye after him through the city, and smite. Let not your eyes spare, neither have ye pity. I want to read this again, church. And to the others he said in mine hearing, Go ye after him through the city, and smite. Let not your eyes spare, neither have ye pity. Slay utterly old and young, both maids and little children and women. Wow. But come not near any man. He's not just talking about masculine gender here. Not any man upon whom is the mark. He's talking about those upon whom is the mark. Come on. What mark is that? Upon those who sigh and cry and began at my sanctuary. Then they began at the ancient men which were before the house. He said unto them, Defile the house. I must have misread that. He said unto them, Defile the house, and fill the courts with the slain. Go ye forth. And they went forth and slew in the city. And we're going to stop there. Let's pray. Father, in the name of Jesus, I pray, God, that you quicken our heart and mind by way of the Holy Ghost. We pray, Father, that you would cause us to think with clarity of thought. We pray, God, that we would perceive with clarity of mind. We pray, Father God, that our intentions and our ideas and our opinions would be swayed by the power of your divine Spirit. Quicken us in this room this morning to receive as of the oracles of God. We'll give you the praise in Jesus' mighty name. Somebody shout it, amen. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. Hallelujah.
Glory to God.
And saints, we're talking here of the time of Ezekiel. When he is ministering, he is not just ministering, but he is casting judgment. He is pouring out judgment upon a people. He is declaring an intention. He is making a move. The church, there is a timeline. There is a horizontal line. I mentioned to you before this phrase that the church is a long line of people headed home. We're somewhere, we're not in the front, we're not in the back, we're just a long line of people headed home, and I'm glad to be in line. Can you say amen? I'm glad that I got in. I'm glad God called me by my name. Amen. I'm glad God convicted me of my sin. I'm glad that the Holy Ghost came by on a Sunday night in Bottom, Texas. I'm glad I was sitting somewhere on the side aisle and the Holy Ghost came and convicted me in the middle of the altar service. I got up, and when I did, I was half saved. Come on, church. I'm glad to be in line. We realize that time is a horizon. Time is a long event. It began somewhere and it'll end somewhere because it's in the hand of God. Time doesn't rule God. God rules time, church. How many believe that? God's not ruled by time. He rules time. Amen. He invented time. Amen. Before God there was no time because there was no before God. Woo! My God. Aren't you glad God's in control? Aren't you glad God is God? There's no understanding of God save God. Amen. In the beginning, there's a horizon. There's a horizon of time. And saints, there are horizons of time in our own life. There are events that are very important for us. There are events that change the horizon. There are events that mark time. There are events that put a tabulation on time. It marks a moment of time. Here in this moment, a horizon, there is just a continual going. There's a continual movement in the life of the church, in the life of the nation of Israel, in the life of this history of time. And God has intention that He is going to make an indenture. He is going to stop the events of one thing. He is going to stop the mindset of one thing. He is going to stop the sin of one generation. He is tired of the way things are going. He's tired of the way things are moving. He's tired of the way men are. He's tired of the people that they have become. He's tired of seeing the corruption in the camp. He's tired of seeing sin in Israel. He's tired of seeing sin in His sanctuary. And He says, I'm going to move. And when God moves away. God moves. And God moves in a certain fashion. And God moves at an explicable time. And God moves when He says, I am finished with one thing. And He never finishes one thing unless He's got another thing in the works. If you believe it, can you shout amen? Amen. I'm not sure that you do not see the greatest moments of blessing, but in the greatest moments of brokenness. Yes. Jesus came in the worst of times, and wasn't He not the greatest blessing in a time of the brokenness of men's lives? My God. He goes and He begins to speak. And the Lord said unto him, go through the midst of the city, to the midst of Jerusalem, and set a mark. Set a mark. Set a mark. Set a mark. Mark them. Mark them. I want you to go through the city first, and I want you to mark them. What did He do in the beginning of days? He went through the camp. He went through the earth, and He marked one man. Come on, say. He would destroy humanity, save for the mark upon one. Oh, somebody shout, praise the Lord. Mark them. God always moves that way. He's going to mark His own. Yes, great God. He's going to mark His own. He said, you mark, set a mark upon the foreheads of the men that sigh and that cry. That sigh and that cry. Church, in such a time, I've told you over the last little while that we are in a dispensational transition. What the church has been, God's blessed it and God's used it. He's ministered to the world. He's ministered to humanity through the church that once was. But that church through sin has come down. That church through self has come down. We have given away. We have invited the world in. It's set among us. It's made its way in every facet of the platform. We've invited it in, and God is reaching a sickening state of mind. He said, I'm going to finish one thing, but before I finish it, I'm going to set in works the beginning of a fresh time. Somebody, oh my God Almighty, we are in a dispensational time. And whom will God choose to work? Whom will He remove His hand from judgment? Who will He choose? He said, you set a mark about those men who sigh and cry. Friends, I'm watching the church today, by and large, and I'd hate to give you the percentage that I see, for very likely you see the same. I'm watching a time when the church, everything seems to be going well. It appears to me so much. Remember the housing market prior to 2008? When people could buy and sell, they could have a little but buy much. And it was just continual. We saw the economy just a boom. Everybody had everything they wanted. We're watching this. We're watching the church. We have larger churches today than have ever been in the history of humanity. In Seoul, South Korea, they number in the multiple thousands. I'm not preaching about that church in Seoul, South Korea. I'm not telling you about the one down in Houston, Texas. I'm not telling you size is sin, saints. I'm simply giving you an understanding that we're living in a time when the church is larger than it's ever been before. We're watching sizable denomination. I'm not here lifting up smallness. I'm not interested in our church remaining small. I'm not interested in staying on the same corner lot. God's house will be full. He knows what He's doing. But saints, in such a time, we're living in a time we have every theology known to man. You can go on either, if you don't like it here, go down the street. And when you quit liking it there, just go further down the street. You can make your way around this city and come back to where you started. Saints, we're watching everything known to man under the guise of religion. Can you say amen? Everything's the church and everything's the child of God. What is such a time we're in? I've watched ministers of the past get tired. They're so tired of being poor. They're so tired of making sacrifices. They've gone out and got the extra job. They've had to show up late for services. They can't do what they need to do. They can't get on their face in prayer, can't come to a prayer meeting because they're trying to do better by their family, because God doesn't seem to be answering all their needs. They go out, next thing to know, their minds are filled. I'm not preaching against a working preacher. I'm a working preacher at this present time. The saints of God, I've shared with you how God's dealt dealt with me in my working. Saints of God, may I tell you this morning that we're living in such a time where our aspiration are those gratifications of things about us. We brought everything into the world, and if the world wants it, we're going to create a place for it in the house of God. My God, what a time that we are living in presently. But he said, I want you to go. I'm about to finish this thing. I'm about to judge it for what it is. I'm about to bring it into its full reality. I'm about to remove its mask from it.
Come on. Right.
I'm about to remove its beauty from it. I'm about to remove its grace from it. I'm about to remove its lying songs from it and its lying praise from it. I'm about to show the defilement upon its teachers and its pastors. I'm about to remove the facade from those who walked in sin. My judgment's about to hit my sanctuary, but before it does, I want you to mark those who sigh and cry.
I'm all with that now.
Let me tell you, I find few today in the ministry of this gospel who are experiencing great sacrifice. Many that I see today are doing better presently than they've ever done before. I've watched people who didn't have the things of this world. I'm watching men who would not entertain themselves with the things of this world now invest themselves more today than they ever have before in the things of this world, to entertain themselves in the things of this world. Their minds so weary from well-doing, so weary now they've clouded their vision to things that presently are. There are few who sigh and cry. Yes. I remember a great minister, Brother David Wilkerson, for years, who preached, and there were times I thought, man, he hates people. I mean, he's just got off into an imbalance. He hates people. And I'm not sure that at times maybe he didn't get into an imbalance. But saints of God, I don't have one word of rebuke because I didn't walk that man's shoes. Come on, saints. Let me tell you, Jesus was a man of sorrows and acquainted with grief, and we didn't walk in his shoes, saints. But this man brought to us a woe and a lament for the things of God. Brother Leonard Ravenhill, you can listen to him, some of his preaching, preach with such scathing rebuke. All of this, just praying and preaching, prophecies that have come out, Azusa Street, all of these things through the years were prophesied of such a time. I remember a reading of such a prophet years ago when I was just a kid in school. I was reading how a great black storm was coming in the world, engulf the world. Saints, we're seeing the storm. We don't have to just look for the signs. You don't have to look for the signs anymore. That black ugly thing's right there, and it's encroaching upon our lives. My God, day by day, it's sweeping in this religious thing called the church. Can somebody say amen? Judgment is coming. Oh my God Almighty. He said, but before it does, let me tell you, God rules time. Can somebody say, oh my God. Let me tell you, our president, I'm thankful for, he has a fear of the things of God. Saints of God, but let me tell you, he has no rule over these things. He can't bring a revival to this nation. We've got to have only a move of God. If you believe it, can you say that? We're not going to litigate a move of God. We can only pray one in. If you believe it, we can only praise. Hallelujah to the Lamb. Thank God. Before I'm going to do the things that I'm going to do, I send you out to mark, set a mark upon the foreheads of the men that sigh and that cry. Sigh, what are they sighing for? What are they crying for? I don't have to guess. I know. And church, we've got to have a people in this hour that don't guess. They know. My God, we cannot be satisfied. We cannot be cheerful. We cannot be happy. We're not settled. My God, we haven't reached the pinnacle of what we're here for. It's still an elusive thing. We look for something that doesn't come. We pray for people that don't show up. We ask God to change people that don't change. We ask for miracles that we don't get. My God, it creates a sigh and it creates a cry. Oh my God, we sigh. We sigh for those things that we desire but we do not see. We remember the past and the good things. I'm glad I have a testimony of my past. Sometimes I regret my boys were young when they had the joy of a joyful past. Over the past many years, they have come in to the time of hardness and difficulty. I thank God that I was able to enjoy to an older state of maturity where I could enjoy my past. And I regret still further that there are those that are younger than themselves. If they walk down that way that will see the glory of God, they will have very little of their past. But let me encourage you this morning, all of their future. Oh, hallelujah. All of your future. Saints, I'm not so sure it wouldn't be better just to start with the future than it would be how to regret the past. Those who sigh and cry every day to lament over where a nation is going, where the church has come to, what it's preaching behind its pulpits, what it's singing from its musical instruments, what it allows inside of itself. The characters that are preaching behind our pulpit, the different Bibles that we're preaching from, the different theologies that we're espousing, what's right today and what's wrong today. There's more rights. We want rights. There's little in the area of wrong. Nothing's no, everything's yes. Come on, church. Oh my God, rights. We want rights, all of this. And what it causes in the heart of those who are marked, come on, church, marked by God. Marked by God. Well, I don't like the way things go. I don't like the way things are. I don't like where I'm living. I don't like where I'm having to minister. I don't like where I'm having to stand and give testimony. I don't like where I'm working. I don't like what I'm surrounded by. But I'm marked by God. Saints, there's a time when you're closed in to your environment. You couldn't move if you wanted to. You can't change geographical location. You can't change churches. You can't change skin. You can't change the spot on your skin. You couldn't go where you wanted to go. David said, if I could have the wings of a bird, I'd fly away, but he didn't get those wings. Come on. Oh, my Paul said, I want to be here, but right now I'm pressed in my spirit to go to Jerusalem. And saints, that was the beginning of the end of Paul. And the Bible never said he got where he wanted to go, but he did have the mark of God upon his life. And you believe it? Can you say amen? Marked. You're marked. You're marked. I can tell you so many times my family and I have quipped as we've gone down the road, and this is so. We have an endeavor to enter into certain groups. Just little. I wanted to go to a fly tying class. What is that, Pastor? Fly fishing. I wanted to go to a fly tying class. We'll put these flies together. Fish for brim, perch, bass, trout, whatever. And they do it on Wednesday. Wouldn't move. Want to be a part of certain groups, the thing would either shut down, run out of money, conflict coming, next thing it's gone. Everything we'd try to involve ourselves with, blow up, break up, shut down, or fall apart. We felt like Jonah running around the place. Anywhere we'd go, bust up, break up, shut down. Dear God, got a mark. Got a mark. Come on, church. Okay. There, when God puts, come on. I said, when God puts a mark on you, oh, I could change my. You can't change your circumstance. God's got a mark on you. Woo! My God, what is that mark upon those who sigh and upon those who cry? My God, says I've listened to the testimony of those in the world, and it sounds happier and more joyful than mine does. I'm thinking if I were to tell you my testimony, it would seem you had more the blessing of God upon your life than I have. I have the mark of, and I just read it this morning, the sign of those who sigh and upon those who cry. Yes. There comes a time when God says, I'm going to rid myself of the thing that I have come to hate. But before I do, I am going to set my mark upon those who have no desire for that, but they have for that thing which has not revealed itself. And I will call them this person upon those who sigh and upon those who cry. He said, set your mark. My God, set your mark. That means they got trouble now. Saints, those who sigh and cry have trouble now. They're not getting what they want now. They're speaking things that don't come to pass now. They're hoping for things that don't come around now. They're dreaming for things that haven't come true. Woo! Come on, church. Holy Ghost in this place. Did you know that?
Yes.
I'm telling you, they're praying for something not coming to pass now. They've got all these dreams and aspirations. They remember when they were accepted, and they remember when they had a reputation. They remember they had a position. They remember when they had a platform, and they remember when people wanted them and wanted to be around them, and they were popular, and all of the things, and they spoke right, stepped right. Everything went to pass for them, and now everything in the world has turned upside down in their lives. They can't seem to go forward. All for them is not back, it's just sideways. And the more they invest, it's like manna. The more they gather, the less it reveals itself, the less they gather. It's just enough. It's just enough. Saints, man wasn't meant to live on manna. God never created him just to live on manna. It's called angels' food. Man wasn't supposed to live on manna. But manna is a requirement. Manna is the thing that will keep you going when it is a thing of God. You'll learn to trust God, and you'll learn not to trust anybody but God. You'll fall in love with Him. You'll fall in love just because when you have a mark on your forehead, you're marked. You come into a time of sighing and a time of crying. I remember I was talking to a pastor friend of mine, and I've shared this with you. We were at a camp meeting, and he was there. It was the last night of the camp meeting, and we stood over against the wall at the time of fellowship after the service was over, and he told me, he said, I really believe that the Lord wants me to, I really believe that I'm supposed to go out of state to another church. And he said, I was called by a pastor who is kind of he's kind of leadership over this. The church had purchased this facility and had fostered this church, and it had fallen into disrepair. The pastor that was there, when he left and took many members with him and took every stitch of everything. I mean, they took the pews off the floor. They removed the clocks off. They took everything and left. Now this church is now in a broken state. He said, I believe that God wants me to, I believe I'm supposed to go there. He said, but my wife doesn't want to go. And he said, I'm afraid if I go, I'll have a divorce on my hands. So he was there in his quandary. I'm faced with this. He's talking to me about it. And I've got to have a word from the Lord, saints. This is a very pivotal time. This man's about to make a choice one way or the other. And I asked him, I said, now why are you going? He said, well, I feel like this. I said, are you going for that church? If you're going for that church, that wife of yours have a right that she doesn't want to go down there, because if you're going to that church, she has every right. Her family's there, her grandchildren are there, her work is there, her life is there, everything she's known there, has every right not to want to go with you. But then I said, if you're going for the will of God, she doesn't have a choice. It put it in a different perspective for that man. Now, the will of God, saints, that means he had to leave his church. He even had a business on the side that was producing for him. They had a beautiful home because we'd been in it. And he was there, and everything, his family was there. All of his family was there. Now they're going to leave and move multiple states away. And he went back home, and he talked to his wife. He said, look, Eddie, what I'm going to ask you to do is I want you to pray 1 week. 1 week, I want you to pray, and at the end of the week, I'll ask you again. She said, okay, I will. I know her too. She prayed for that week, and when she got through it that week, they come together, and he said, what's your answer? She said, well, it's not the answer you want. He said, I still don't want to go, but I know that's what we're supposed to do.
All right. That's good.
In our conversation while we're in the fellowship room, I wanted to preface a thing. I said, now, if you go down there because you think God's going to bless this church and God's going to multiply, and you're going to be able to prove that this is the will of God for your life because it doubled and tripled, and you had great anointing down there. A lot of folks got saved and filled with the Holy Ghost, and you proved to her the decision you made was right, then you're still making the decision based upon that church. But if you get down there and do the will of God, the thing plummets, and you lose more people than you had when you got there, and you hadn't had anybody saved in a long time, nobody getting full of the Holy Ghost, and you ain't got nothing but trouble, you better know one reason you went. You went because it was the will of God for your life. I talked to him several months after he had been where he is. He said, brother, would you pray for me? I'm in trouble. Woo! I'm telling you, I wanted to shout. I said, brother, God is going to send revival to your church. He's in trouble. Saints, somehow I felt I felt there was a brother in arms. Come on, somebody. Oh, my God. Nobody's willing to go through trouble. God doesn't trouble people anymore. Christians don't have to sacrifice anymore. You don't have to pay the price anymore. He paid the price for you. You don't have to pay any price. You don't have to do anything. Everything's a handout. Just come in and ask what God will give you. You stand up, we give our bag along. You know, many people give their money in the bag because they want to get at the end of the aisle. We want God to bless us at the end of the month. I want to give an extra 10 in the offering because I need $100 blessing. My God! You do what you do because it's the will of God. That's it. God set a mark upon those foreheads of those men that sigh and cry for all the abominations to be done in the midst thereof. And to the others he said in mine hearing, go ye after him to the city and smite. Let not your eyes spare, neither have ye pity. Slay utterly old. Now listen to this. And we're not even finished yet. He's leading up to a point, and we'll finish where we're going first. The others he said in mine hearing, go ye after him through the city and smite. Let not your eyes spare, neither have ye pity. Now I'm going to read this again, church, because we don't allow that in this politically correct world. Right. We don't allow that in this politically correct church. The church is nothing about this. God's nowhere in 100 miles of this. God does not expect that. That's of the devil. That's not right. All you're doing is destroying lives. Pastor, you don't care about anybody. You throw this kind of thing out there, nobody will get anything they want. Let me tell you, when Ananias and Sapphira showed up before Peter, he said, you lied to the Holy Ghost and died at his feet. That church left him, and the real church come through the door. Oh, my God! Hallelujah! And so shall it be. So, I said, so shall it be. So shall it be. Oh, my God! Hallelujah! Yes, God. He said, let not your eyes spare, neither have ye pity. Slay utterly old and young, both maids and little children and women. But not... But look what follows the code in church. Woo! Let me say before again, slay utterly old. Let me paint you a picture. You slay old, you slay young, you slay maids, you slay little children, you slay the women. You start talking about hurting a woman. You talk about getting her attention. You start about cutting her off, killing her. Let me tell you, God kills people. Yeah. Doesn't that sound ugly? Yeah. He kills people because he gave command. Yeah. When Saul was standing there with cloaks at his feet, he wasn't throwing stones, but he was giving authority to those who were. Saul was killing them people. Come on, church. They wouldn't have been throwing stones if they didn't have Saul's authority. Saul was killing them people. He didn't care what happened to him. When they got him in that prison house, he'd rather be dead than alive. My God, he's killing people. Let me tell you, God kills people. He said, don't you fear God? Don't you fear man that after you're dead, he can't do anything about that? He said, you fear me? After you're dead, I put both soul and body in hell, and hell is forever. I'd rather be dead than in hell. Come on, church. My God. He said, you slay utterly old. You've got to get this in your spirit. This soft and soothed and pretty. We want a church that's pretty. We want a church that's soft. We want a church that's sweet. Come on, saints. We want a church whose songs just kind of lull us along. That sweet meditation of our little feminine upturned wrists as we lift a time and familiarity and lackadaisical worship before the Lord as we hum out our tunes of disgusting praise. Come on, somebody. That's not what God says in such a time. He said, you kill. You slay utterly old. You slay the old. Let me tell you, God will judge you till you're dead. Hear me, saints. I heard a minister say the other day, there was another minister who had great ministry in the church, but something had gotten a hold of him. And as we were talking, he was saying, well, he's old, he'll pass on. His thing will pass on. God will judge you till you're dead. And saying to God, let me tell you, I don't know how old Jonah was, but I'm sure glad God judged Jonah even at his age, because it's saying, Jonah, don't go to hell. I'm going to send you a well. Don't go to hell. Saints of God, on the deathbed, it'd do more good to climb on the chest of some old dying preachers who become disobedient to the faith and shouted some terms of truth into their life. Maybe in their dying breath they could call upon the Lord, because God said, slay utterly old. He said, slay the young. He said, slay the maids. That's little girls that never have been married. He said, slay the little children and slay the women. But come not near any man upon whom is the mark. Ooh, my God. Who's that right? Let me tell you, child of God, if God has put his mark upon your life, your days are ahead. Those about you are enjoying the times that are present before them. Those churches are growing. Those ministers are growing. They're multiplying. Men and women and children are coming into them to buy the drugs. We're saying what they want to hear. We're telling them to be a better you and a better self. And we're building the self-esteem of the people. And we're creating a church society where people can come all over the globe. And we're watching those who are part of the world become a part of the church. But they don't change lyrics, and they don't change songs, and they don't change the way they talk. They don't change the way they walk. They just come into the church. And that's thriving in this present hour, in the midst when God has put his mark upon those who sigh and upon those who cry. But go on with me just a little bit further. But come not near any man upon whom is the mark, and begin at my sanctuary. Woo. Begin at my sanctuary. My God. That's where we're headed. It says, begin at my sanctuary. Right there. Then they begin at the ancient men, which were before the house. And he said unto them, defile the house. Now this is God telling them what to do. He said, he didn't say cleanse the house. He didn't say bless the house. He said defile the house. He didn't say destroy here. He said defile. That means you do a thing that I never expected to do because of the choice of men. Let me tell you, there is a will of God and there is a mind of God. And God can change his mind concerning his will according to the choices that you and I make. The thing that he loved and that he created. He told the man of God down to detail how to construct that house. Down to detail. He said, you go out there and mold that down by the seaside, that there be no sound of the mallet there inside of the temple. He told them how to hush, and he told them how to be holy. He told them how to enter, and he told them how to exit. He told them what to put upon what. He told them what to be made of gold and out of silver and out of brass and out of precious things. And now that God upon that house is saying, defile that house. Defile it. Let me tell you, that's when the pastor's son has a baby out of wedlock. That's when the choir director runs off with somebody in the church. That's when all kind of sins of all kind come in the church. And saints, it doesn't make any difference what you've had or where you stand or where you sit. When God begins to take the mask off and God begins to remove the facade, it doesn't make any difference how many years that church has been in the city. He will go to some of the oldest churches in our cities and he will begin to defile the house. What's going to happen? He's going to remove the facade. He's going to bring that black, ugly, terrible, disgusting thing out into the open, because he's going to deal with it thoroughly. If you believe it, can you shout amen? But who will he not touch? He will not lay a finger upon those who sigh and upon those who cry. Saints, get yourself ready now. Get yourself ready now. Enter into the sanctuary of the Lord. Get a hold of the mind of God. Hear what God is saying to the church. Hear it. Hear it, what God is saying to the church. Hear the times that we're in. Hear the conflict in which we're a part of. He said to them, defile the house, fill the courts with the slain, go ye forth. And they went forth and slew in the city. Where did they start? They started in the sanctuary. I want to encourage a child of God, if look for a move of God. Not a move of his hand. Look for his mind. Not his, but him. Look for him. Go back to what God said. Dig throughout the Word of God. Get yourself in the prayer closet. Lay a hold of God. Shake free everything that would distract you from coming in a place that can be marked by God. Saints, Let me tell you, it has moved into every congregation, of every denomination, of every independent church, of everything. It has come to the platform. It's moving among the pews, everything. Nothing, the missions field, all of that. It's moving across the land. God that cup is just about absolutely full. And when it is, He is going to make an indenture on the horizontal line.
Yes, He is.
He's going to say, pow, that's it right there. There is an absolute day of God. When the day of the Lord never denotes rapture. It always denotes judgment. When He said the day of the Lord, that's a denotion, that is a denoting of judgment, not rapture. The day of the Lord. When God makes a mark, He said, this is it. You'll mark it by time. I don't know all the details. None of us know all the details. I do believe that even in the heavens, the stars mark certain time because God is the eternal mathematician. He holds everything in the palm of His hand. And one of these days when it's all said and done, there will already be marked time that if we could have known the mind of God, it had already been set. Not because God chooses that man would sin, but God can't help being God. Come on, somebody. And God knows the end from the beginning. He knows it all. That all of these things are set in time.
Yes.
Your greatest desire is this. Lord, I want to be in that long line of people heading home. And I want my desire to be yours and yours alone. God, I want to do what you want me to do. And I want to be what you want me to be. I'll go where you want me to go. And I'll say what you want me to say. Irregardless. The irregardless will be your fight. In the world you'll have tribulation. Be of good cheer. He's overcome the world. To get in line and begin that march toward home. You don't have a choice. I don't want a choice. I will be so thoroughly marked with God that I have lost the sensibility and the ideology that I have a choice. I have allowed Him to take an auger and pin my ear to the wall as He did in the Old Testament. Come on, somebody. I'm marked by God and owned by God. That means your wife is the master's. That means your children's is the master because you're come on, somebody. I want to be marked by God. Oh, let me tell you something. We've got some black folks in here. I thank God. Thank God. But they have slavery in their history. Let me tell you, don't let that be something to destroy you. Let it be something that'll make you. Amen. I've never seen any society, I've never seen any people who've been through struggle. You know one of the reasons Texas is a great state? Because we've got the Alamo. Come on, somebody. Let me tell you, when you've been through hardship and you've been through difficulty and you've been through suffering, it'll keep you. Paul said, if I'm going to glory in anything, I'm going to glory in my infirmities. My God, it made him and give him a state of stability. It gave him a stickability. He came through and you'll come through, child of God. We're in a time of trouble. We're in a time of escalating change. We're in a time that God is becoming increasingly tired of. And saints of God, the greatest desire is that God would mark you, that you are one who sighs and that you are one who cries. And when God begins to judge the church first and judge the nation and judge the world, when He walks through the city, He'll see the blood and He'll pass over you. If you believe it, would you give Him a praise? Would you lift your hands, worship Him? Mandala Vose, Libre Bakaya, Lisa Ratolobokomayasa, Mandala Valeoto Sata, Mary Koya, Sanda Leia Biosota, Mandala Very Saya Lealako.
Thank you, God. Hallelujah. Thank you, Jesus. Glory to your name, oh God. Hallelujah. Oh, thank you.
Every day we pray our circumstance would change. Every day.
Oh, yes.
I know what it is to have somebody just feel like they need to come to this church.
Yeah.
Several years ago, I prayed one year. I said, God, give me 5 people this year. 5 people. That's not much to ask.
Jesus.
5 people came to that church, and 5 people within a matter of weeks left that church.
Yes.
I was so distraught. The reason was because I had prayed for that many,
I know.
and that many left.
Yeah.
And it was harder for me after my prayer was answered than it was before.
Yeah.
But then God reminded me, Joseph was down in the prison,
Come on.
and the butler and the baker showed up, and he said, when you leave, don't forget me.
That's it.
And they forgot him. I don't know what Joseph dealt with, but I believe it somehow came to what I was dealing
Oh,
with.
yeah.
And when the Lord reminded me of that moment, I
Yes.
took strength,
Exactly.
and I went on. And I've had to do that 1,000 times, church.
Yes.
Looking for something that I know is down in here,
Come on.
but hadn't manifested itself yet.
Come on.
I'm glad this morning that I can say with confidence, I've got a mark.
Yes.
And it's among those who sigh and among those who cry. God has promised to do a work. I'm staying until then. Come on, church. Let your hands on the cross. Would you stand with me across this room? Oh, my God, Lord. Father, I believe.